Welcome to the show. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about something that's been going around the news for about 5 to 7 days now. And I've sort of been waiting to give my 2 cents on what this really means. It's about Cracker Barrel, and everybody's tired of talking about it. But everybody's sort of talking about it from a marketing and rebranding perspective. But I'm here to give you a PR perspective on what's happened. So, I'm going to start from the top, the latest, and then go backwards. Here we go. Cracker Barrel co-founder, who's 93 years old, slammed rebranding disaster. He said they were throwing money out of the window. So, his name is Tommy Lowe, who founded Cracker Barrel, with his late friend, Dan Evans. He says the chain's modern logo remodel is pitiful. He's not mincing his words. And so, everybody's been looking at it from a marketing perspective because they lost $100 million in the market in terms of value. But nobody's able to judge what they got from that in free PR. So, did they do that on purpose? To make everybody talk about them for free? So they might have lost $100 million in marketing value, but gained billions of dollars in PR value. So let's take a look. We'll go from the top. So Tommy Lowe, the 93-year-old co-founder, slammed the restaurant chain's executives Thursday, saying they learned an expensive "I told you so" lesson after rebranding their modernized logo following a MAGA backlash. So Lowe spoke with WTVF that he and his friend, the late Dan Evans, were driving forces behind the first Cracker Barrel, which occupied and opened in Tennessee in 1969. With the help of 10,000 others, with the help of $10,000 and 10 others to get the restaurant's kitchen open and running. You have to remember this is 1969. So, $10,000 in 1969 is hundreds of thousands of dollars today. So back then, he says, Cracker Barrel wasn't a sure bet, right? They didn't really know what they were doing. It was just a country store for country people. And that's what they want it to be today. Lowe was referred to Cracker Barrel CEO, Julie Fells-Masino, who led the chain's $700 million modernization initiative, including a simplified logo that removed the iconic barrel. Even though most didn't see that, they just turned the barrel to the side and it was still there in modernization. But Uncle Herschel did not agree. He dismissed the redesign as pitiful, saying Messino's fast food background left her disconnected from the heart of Cracker Barrel's identity. So they're trying to modernize to be like the competition. Cracker Barrel doesn't have any competition. That's what Lowe told the outlet. And I quote, he said, I heard she was at Taco Bell. This is the current CEO. So Taco Bell also rebranded, remodeled, and changed their restaurant to be more modern. And he said, what does Taco Bell know about Cracker Barrel and country food? They need to work on the food service and leave the barrel, the logo, alone. Fair point. He also added, spending $700 million, doing that is throwing money out the window. So, Masino was named Cracker Barrel's president and CEO in July 2023, just 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. After taking the role, she began updating the menu, interior design, and pricing. Wow. These early changes largely went unnoticed by customers. Her most recent move quickly drew national attention prompting executives to side with customers and reinstate the old-timer logo. Quote, "We thank our guests for sharing your voices and love for Cracker Barrel," the company said in a statement. "We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old-timer will remain." So this is, in PR world, this is what we call crisis communications. They had to quickly decide, what do we do? Do we go with the new or do we stay with the old? Go with the new at the risk of alienating your old and faithful customers, or go with the new and attract new customers who have money to spend and want to see a new place that sort of resonates with them. So Lowe, who served as Cracker Barrel's vice president of operations and spent decades on its board of directors, said he's never met Messino and doesn't believe she even knows who he is. So Lowe remembered a Grand Ole Opry, right? A performer named String Bean, who wanted the founders in its early days to keep its country. So they were country first. They're not trying to be modern. They're not trying to rebrand a la McDonald's and be more modern. They want to stay country. That's their main audience. He's now sending the same warning to Cracker Barrel's current leadership. Ignore it, and the business could stumble. If they don't go back to keeping it country, it's not going to work, he said. So there are currently 657 Cracker Barrels located across 43 states. So the U.S. has 50 states, and there are Cracker Barrels in 43 states. But most people I've spoken to have never been to one. But the old-timers might have. Great. So now let's look at what modern designers and brand managers and marketing people are saying. I'll give you an example. Somebody said they thought it was just a logo. Cracker Barrel's modern makeover triggered an instant backlash, sparking nationwide outrage and a 12% stock drop. And she wants to point out the sort of 5 lessons hidden in the fiasco. Everybody has an opinion. 1, nostalgia is emotional ROI. Customers weren't just attached to food, but to decades of emotional loyalty tied to the brand. Minimalism, as if juxtaposed to modernization. Minimalism is trendy. It works with digital design. We're no longer printing things. That makes sense. But brand positioning matters more than modern aesthetics, she thinks. I see her point. So, emotional equity versus visual identity. So the old-timer and the barrel wasn't a visual element. It's a symbol that grounded the brand's story and identity. That's a fair point. Perception impact KPIs. A 12% stock dip proved how quickly consumer sentiment can impact business performance. And lastly, audience insights are non-negotiable. Listening to your core audience before launching protects brand reputation and preserves lifetime customer value. So the takeaway from that comment is logos aren't just visuals. It's a shortcut to loyalty, trust, and equity. And don't just rebrand, rethink. Good perspective. Let's look at another one. So, another person chimed in and said simply that they wanted to compare them to other conglomerates that have sort of changed their look. So she's saying that Cracker Barrel didn't change their logo because of wokeness. They changed it because of Wall Street, and here's why. So this is the play. McDonald's and others own the land, not just burgers. The building on top is more profitable if it's designed to be disposable. In essence, she's saying that McDonald's deals in real estate, not Big Macs. If the brand fails, the land appreciates, and eventually it gets sold to the next big thing, like an EV superchargers or data centers or things of that nature that electric car companies are willing to swoop up because there's a McDonald's on every corner. So that's why iconic designers like Pizza Hut's roof, McDonald's arches, Cracker Barrel's porches are disappearing, right? If a McDonald's is not selling, you're better off selling it to companies that can provide that to their customers as recharging stations. So they're being replaced with gray, beige, copy and paste boxes. Cheaper to build, easier to flip, easier to repurpose. So this isn't about DEI, culture wars, or woke conspiracies. It's about Excel spreadsheets. Cutting uniqueness equals lowering cost equals maximizing shareholder value. So corporate America's dream isn't innovation, it's sterilization. If you walk through London today, you never see a McDonald's in the yellow and red. They're very fancy, they're gray with the yellow M is still there. The food is still the same, but they've modernized. So vanilla does everything. Do less is the tactic du jour. Cash out with more is the financial outcome. If a playground raises the premiums, bulldoze it. If a roofline looks unique, flatten it. If it's unique or different, kill it. So the next time you see another identical beige box by the highway, remember it wasn't designed to sell burgers, pizzas, or biscuits. It was designed to sell land below it. So that's a very interesting perspective when you think about it, that these huge companies are not only selling food, their real estate is really what's worth millions and billions. Another person said, well, let's look at it from a different perspective. Everyone's freaking out about the new Cracker Barrel logo, but I think we're all taking this the wrong way. It's not that they rebranded, it's that they waited way too long to do it. They stuck with a look and feel that connected with a generation that's not that's not really showing up anymore. Right, your grandparents might stop at a Cracker Barrel on a road trip, but you've never been there. I'll ask you a question and leave it in the comment. When was the last time you actually visited a Cracker Barrel? So now, we're watching them playing catch-up in real time. They lost over $100 million in value in a single day. But there's still belief out there from the younger audience that it's not for the reason that everybody thinks. It's bigger than missing a barrel. It's because they didn't build trust with the next generation before making a change. I agree. I've seen it before. For over a decade, brands holding on to what worked while buyer expectations keep changing. We keep the same website from 2017. We run the same ad copy that worked 5 years ago. We design postcard mailers and forget that buyers now start online. I remember in New York shopping at BJ's, we couldn't wait for the weekly flyers to come through the mail, and we would clip them depending on what we needed. Soap, chicken, and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, you could just clip them on the app, and it would automatically be deducted at checkout. So we stopped using that mail flyer. It's a company that's evolving. God knows how much they were spending on actually sending magazine flyers to every single member. So then, day one, on one day, the market slows, and they panicked, rushing into updates that feel reactive instead of strategic. So, here's what people believe. Some say the best brands don't age with their audience. They grow with the next one. Right, so before we all point fingers at Cracker Barrel, there's some lessons to learn here. Revisit your brand voice. Update your brand journey and build trust before you need it. It sounded like they were on their last legs and struggling. Fair enough, some people might say that. From a PR perspective, here's one thing. They might have spent $700 million on the rebranding, but they gained over $1 billion in free PR. Every post on LinkedIn is a CEO, a brand manager, a graphic artist, or a rebranding specialist giving their 2 cents. Cracker Barrel couldn't have paid for this publicity. It came for free. So the moral of the story is, you can use PR to ignite an audience. Budweiser became Bud one day. Nike decided to go with the Jumpman logo to sell more shoes. Coca-Cola went with the new Coke. Is Diet Coke the same as Coke Zero? We're not sure, but it ignites something in everybody, and there's something new to look at. So some of these brands need to call me personally because they are missing the aspect of a crisis communications. So if the idea from their team was, let's pretend to change and modernize the logo to annoy the MAGA crowd, or let's change the logo to entice younger audiences, it's a win-win. 6 months from now, their stocks will be back up. The elderly who ate at Cracker Barrel anyway will still be going there, and they might have attracted new customers. So the amount of free PR that they've been able to garner from this fiasco is, I don't think it's easy to calculate, because if they had paid to be on every newspaper and every podcast about their food, I don't think that would have happened. The real question I ask is, what about the service? What about the food? What about the waiters and waitresses? What about the environments? What about their locations? Is it really something people are willing to go to? I don't know anybody who's been to a Cracker Barrel. Hands up if you've ever actually visited a Cracker Barrel and you have an opinion, because I've never been to one. And so now we're talking about them. You're a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old who drives by a Cracker Barrel and goes to Taco Bell or McDonald's, or their CEO was actually spotted going to get coffee at Starbucks, even though they serve coffee also. So when I take a step back and really look at what happened, I think if it was on purpose, it was genius. They're now the center of attention. Nobody was thinking about Cracker Barrel. It wasn't on anybody's lips a couple weeks ago, but we're now all talking about them. So if it was on purpose, I think it was a genius idea. If it wasn't on purpose and they lost that much market value, then rebranding is an interesting thing to look at. But it's just interesting to see, everybody online is an expert and thinks they should have done it this way or they should have done it that way. At the end of the day, if you walk through central London or Manhattan, McDonald's no longer has a bouncing castle or a playground. It's been modernized. It's still the same Big Mac. It's still the same French fries. It's still the same Coke. But brands realize that they need to reach new audiences as their loyal customers age. So if you're a Cracker Barrel and your average customer is 75 years old and you bring in a new CEO, the CEO's remit is to attract new audiences and make the brand relevant again. In that case, I think she's done a great job. the brand is relevant again. Most people never talked about Cracker Barrel. And the other aspect that people are talking about, which most people don't know, is that Cracker Barrel is actually a very racist brand. During slavery, a cracker, what do you think about white people being called a cracker? Where does it come from? In the South, slave masters used to crack whips. And they would have slaves, especially male slaves, bend over a barrel and whip them in front of their children and their families to subjugate them and embarrass them. If you look at the old logo, you'll notice that the R whips around. And there's a whip in the logo. It's not just design, it was there on purpose. There's a whip around the logo with an old man sitting in a rocking chair and a barrel watching. So a lot of black Southerners think, wow, this is a great change. Time to get rid of that old racist logo. The average person won't see it because your experiences are different. So a design company coming in and changing a racist logo into a modern, more design-focused digital usability didn't resonate with their clients. So the more you know, the more interesting it gets. A cracker in slavery times was the sort of slave master that was, his position was to punish slaves by cracking a whip, cracker, and bending them over a barrel for the discipline. Cracker Barrel. I don't think the average person that goes to eat there recognizes that. They're too busy focused on the scrambled eggs and pancakes. So let's look at that for a second. But I think to wrap this up, it's been a great PR opportunity for them. They spent a lot of money and they've now said, hey, we know our new logo has annoyed a lot of people. We're going to go back to the old one. So not only have they enticed new potential customers, they've aggravated people who are now talking about them, and they are now going to retain their old customers who still want to eat there. But the reality still exists. And people aren't asking the real questions. What are the real questions? Let's take a look. If you're going on a road trip and you decide to stop on the highway to get something to eat, what are you thinking about? Are you there for the logo? Or are you there for good eggs, good pancakes, good syrup, good service, and things of that nature? And I would say it's the latter. So it's different generations of people looking at the same thing. And I don't think anybody would really agree. So from a marketing perspective, it was a fiasco. From a genuinely PR perspective, I think they knocked it out of the park, if this, in case, was actually done on purpose. Because they are now the talk of the town. Everybody wants to see what they do next. And 2 weeks ago, nobody thought about Cracker Barrel. So kudos to their PR team from that perspective. And I'm sure people will keep discussing it. But anyway, I just wanted to give my 2 cents from a communications aspect and to see, different angles about why people do different things. But that brings us to the end of this episode. Head over to buymeacoffee.com/Samson King to make a donation. We always appreciate people that support the channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll be bringing you more episodes in the how-to fashion when it comes to PR, global brands, local brands, and things of that nature. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.